City Council meeting is called to order.
Roll call for the City Council meeting of Wednesday, September 19th, 2018, at 7:30 p.m. Mrs. Arrington, Ms. Allen, Mr. Kwiatkowski, Mr. Mursky, Mrs. Schaaf, Mr. Winarski, Mr. Witherspoon. Please rise for a moment of silent meditation and Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Approval of minutes from the City Council meeting of September 5th and bills for payment on September 14th and 21st, 2018.
No, those aren't
Ms.
mine.
Allen, Ms. Kwiatkowski, Mr. Mursky, Ms. Schaaf, Mr. Winarski, Mr. Witherspoon, Mrs. Aaron. Kaz, you're up for your presentations.
What's up? I'm up, Rose?
Yeah, sure.
You want to come down?
I'll come down with him out.
If Paulie Auckland and Spano brothers will come up here, please, and the rest of the team.
Cass, with the mic. Oh, they can't hear you on TV.
Hello, Coach. Congrats. Thank you. I'll see you again. They let you up too?
Yeah, please.
Don't let anybody. We're here today as council to honor the Mercyhurst baseball program, and especially two gentlemen in particular. And Paul, feel free to come in if you'd like and talk about them. We're honoring Joe Spano, head coach of the University of Mercyhurst, their baseball team. He starts his 20th season and ranks as the all-time wins leader in a program with 613 victories. He led his team, correct me, I just had a chance to read this real quick. There's quite a bunch of accolades on here. He led his squad to the #1 ranking in several Division II polls and the 2018 team to a regional championship. And he's had 13 players that have appeared in the majors or been drafted by him. That's quite an accomplishment. While football gets a lot of credit, it's really tough around here when baseball players make the majors. It's a real accomplishment. So on that, I'm proud to thank you for that. And we'll let you have that, and we'll let you have a word here in a minute. We're also honoring Coach Charles Spanos, associate head coach of Mercyhurst. He starts his 17th year. He's a brother of head coach Joe Spano and a former third base coach, and worked closely with the men's baseball team, the infielders, and he's had 21 infielders who have earned all conference honors and titles. Paul, would you like to add anything to this? Or?
They're great.
Great. Here you go, Coach. Would you like to introduce some of the players?
Oh, we have a few. Actually, we have a few local guys here. Ryan Smirker, Corey Shields, Jared Kaptarowski is from Youngstown, and Nick McCrandle is from Pittsburgh area, but played for some Ohio teams. So he's kind of a, we don't know who he roots for in different sports. But he's from Pittsburgh, but he played with some of these guys in Ohio. And
He's an Indians fan then.
I'm not sure. Yeah. So, but thank you so much for this honor. Thank you, City Council. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It is an incredible honor to represent Erie when we go out to these different championships and regionals. We're just so proud. It's not easy playing baseball in the spring, as everyone knows. This past, we kind of caught the back end of 200 inches of snow. So nothing's ever easy, but just like our community, we work hard and we feel the support behind us, and we thank everybody so much. This is a tremendous honor. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Just really humbled and proud to be here. Been able to be here a few times with the team, and just so proud to represent Mercyhurst University. And like Coach said, when we go on the road, just representing Erie, Pennsylvania. And every time we say Erie, Pennsylvania, they're kind of surprised that a baseball team from Erie with all our snow, they know we're number one for snowfall, but they didn't realize what a good baseball program we have. So we're so proud to represent the area, and thank you everybody for having us here.
And they tell me that you've been to the College World Series twice,
Yes, sir.
and that's quite an accomplishment. Baseball, it's a great game. It's the only game where you can be a failure and a success. Where if you bat 300, you failed 7 out of 10 times. But it's a humbling game, and I'm glad to meet you. We'll see you at the game.
Appreciate it.
Come around this.
Good work.
Guys, come on up, shake everyone's hand. Congratulations. You guys on a good luck this year. Good luck this year.
Hey, Mel.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Congratulations.
What's up, brother? How you doing? Rented that out too. Yeah, someone else rented it out. Congratulations, sir.
Congratulations to you.
Oh, once again.
Well, it's my turn again. I had Bishop Brock and his boys up here a couple of meetings ago. They did an outstanding job. Again, you know about Spoon's League, but it's not my league. It's the league of the city. It's part of the city recreation program and has been for 28 years. Without the support of the city, the administration, and the Parks Department, it would be very difficult for us to do what we do. But every now and then, I see a kid who has the heart of a lion. And you know the lion is the king of the jungle. He's always fighting. He runs the jungle. Well, we had over 280 kids total. And I picked a committee, and I told them, you pick one kid out of every age group that has shown leadership on the court, leadership in the community, respect of our volunteers, and you let me know who that is, and we will recognize them. The first person I want to call up is Jesse Tate. Come on up, JT. He's been with me for 28 years. We call him JT. He don't agree with me all the time. He quit on me 3 times. But he come back. And I love him. Okay. Just going to talk about the first individual.
Thank you, Mr. Witherspoon. The first individual that we want to honor in Spoon's Court, it's a man that I've been around for about 10 years, working in the schools with him, just a really good kid. Then he comes and he plays his heart out. He never complains. I've never seen him complain once in all the time that he's played Spoons. He's just a really good class young man, and one day will be a really good leader. I'd like everybody to give a round of applause for Rondé Bridget.
Man, please, without this man that's coming over here, it'd be very difficult for us to do what we do. The next person I would like to come up, he's been with me for about 22 years. Merrill Page. We call him Scooby.
Thanks, Mr. Spoon. I call Mr. Spoon Pops because he's like a father to the whole community, and everybody ever played in Spoons, everybody call him Pops because he's like a father to all of us. This person I want to call... This person I want to call up, I work in the schools, and I've been working with this kid probably about 4 or 5 years. I've been knowing him since 4th or 5th grade. Ever since I know him, he's been an A-B student, never gets in trouble in school, and he goes, like Mr. Spoon said, he goes extra hard on the basketball court. And I think he's going to be one of our future stars around here. Might not be in sports because he's real brainiac too. So he can go to school for academics too. His name is Namari Bruton. He goes to Erie High.
Al, he's taller than you. You're shrinking now.
Hey, congratulations. Goodness, thanks for all you do for kids.
Congratulations.
The next person I would like to come up and make a presentation. I've known her a long time, and every now and then she says she's gonna quit on me, but she shows up. She's a very smart individual. She works hard, worked toward her master's, obtained that, and yet she finds time to come up to the court just about every day. Miss Kim Overton.
Well, being a teacher, I had to write my stuff down, so I had it ready. In order to obtain the Heart of the Lion Award, one must possess exceptional courage to withstand the odds that are in front of them, determination to carry out the task at hand, resiliency in order to bounce back and transition from defeat to victory, and teamwork to pull others together for a common goal or victory. In the age group of 11 and 12, one player has been exceptional on and off the court in possessing the heart of the lion. This student, this player, Demario Crawford, has displayed year after year a demeanor that moves him ahead of his peers. At the age of 9, he played his first year at Spoons, and many spectators and staff of Spoons Court saw that he would be a great team leader and player because he motivated not only himself but his team. We used to see him give high fives to his teammates to say, well done, slap someone on the back to encourage them, but also he used to motivate his team to get involved. DeMario Crawford, he had a game for Mother Teresa's school, so he could not be here, but we want to say thank you, well done to this young individual.
We're gonna get a handshake?
Come on, Kevin.
See what I deal with? She stole the goal.
Thank you.
Finally, last but not least, our future. His name is Carmen Whitted. He signed up to play at the Bayview Park League. And our sign-up was low there. And we kind of watched him a little bit. He had talent. So we transferred him to Spoons on 19th Street, where he was an outstanding player. He could have played in the next age group, but we kept him down to 9 and 10. Outstanding. He led his team. I was the coach. He led his team to a 1-point loss in overtime. And he took the last shot. It hit the rim. I told them to hold your head up high. I said, we didn't lose. We're still winners. He looked at me. I know he wanted to say something, but he didn't. But he encouraged his teammates. We did good. Young man, you come up here and get your goal.
Mal, he's still taller than you, too.
Thank you.
And I thank you guys for being patient with us. You are welcome to stay or you can leave, your choice. I know the fellas, young fellas, you got school tomorrow. I'll see you. Bye.
Take care.
Congratulations to Mercy Hurst and these young men. It's so awesome to see our young people and our young adults get awarded for such good work. Now that takes us into our repository sales. Is there anybody here for repository sales?
These on? Yeah, I'm David Smock. Repository purchase 738 East 11th Street. I already bought the 738 and a half East 11th, ladies and gentlemen. The front parcel, I didn't realize was going to be a separate parcel purchase, so that's what I'm doing here today. And I've had a little bit of success with the repository process. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it. I don't know if you have any questions for me. Go ahead.
Madam President?
Go ahead.
So you own 1138 and a half, correct?
738.
I'm sorry, 738 and a half East 11th. Have you done any improvements to that property, or what was, is it a
Because it was
vacant lot?
landlocked, I wasn't able to bring in a dumpster or anything.
Okay.
And obviously, you got to go through the correct process, so I didn't know how well that purchase was going to go before I would, invest any more money, but now I'll have the whole parcel, and now we can move forward, and
And what's on the parcel at 738? Is there a home, or is it a vacant lot?
it's vacant primarily. There's some cars and some debris, so that's the first step, is to remove the debris and find the owners of the vehicles, and then, proceed the dumpster and clean up. And
Okay, and where do you live in relation to the homes, or?
I'm West 32nd, 24
Okay.
36 West 32nd.
And then what do you plan on doing with this property, renting it, or?
No, perhaps step one, just to see if it can be salvaged, step one, and then either keep it in the family, one of my children or whatnot. But like I said, get back on the taxes, you know what I mean? Hopefully this is a property that can be saved. It's
Okay.
pretty rough at this point, everybody kind of knows that.
And you have the, how should I say this, the skills or the financial means to pay somebody to fix it up? or-
Finally, yeah, recently I was recalled. to work,
DIY?
so, Yeah, so,
Yeah,
yeah, it should be, by the end of the year, hopefully we get this in some sort of order, so.
okay. Thank you. No further questions from me.
Anyone else? Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else for repository sales? Is there anyone else for repository sales? Last call for repository sales. That takes us into citizens to be heard.
Let me just start this, Rose, because I like to keep track of it too, okay? Do you mind? Okay. My name is Randy Barnes, 109 Walton Point, Erie, Pennsylvania. It's nice being downtown where the weather's still nice, shirt sleeves, there's still some tourists around. I had some people stop me over here and they said, circus is in town. I looked at them, I said, no, those clowns meet twice a month over there. Come on, Mel, a little joke, a little smile, come on. No, I'm excited about what's been going on because I look at some of the things that you're working on, and so I'm thinking that we've kind of taken care of most of the poverty. We've taken care of most of the abandoned housing issues, the code enforcement, that's under control, crime, business attraction, no problem there. Of course, the mayor, he's going to take care of the budget. So that leaves you with the important stuff to take care of, like tax deal under review for Erie Jefferson Society. The 7 of you really have time for this? This is what you're paying our solicitor to do, to write a, what is it again, a memo or something? What is it? He's going to do some work. He's going to bill you some hours to talk about giving this society a discount. This society has gotten us $572,000 of tax dollars from the Erie Gaming Revenue Authority. How much do you think all the neighborhood minority centers have gotten in that amount of time? A tiny, tiny amount of $572,000. You go back through and look at the grants, it's disgusting. To think that some of these neighborhood centers beg for scraps. They barely get those, but we can take this. This is entertaining. You know, I've been to Jefferson Society, and most of you probably have. I even had the opportunity to be a speaker there once. And I've gone there for free events. I've gone there for paid events. And if they told me I had to pay $2 extra for a free event, or $2 extra for some speaker, I could probably pay that if I thought the entertainment was worthwhile. You know, this Jefferson Society has a board, just like all 501c3 501c3, yeah. 501c3. And by the way, you can look at this if you want, and they have about, once you deduct their mortgage and you deduct what they're carrying, the places worth, they have about 1.2 million in the bank. This was their latest filing the end of the year. 1.2 million is what they have in the bank. I don't know, maybe the mayor could help me. If you could get 4% on that in a year, you'd be able to pay your taxes. 4%. The interest on your savings, the Jefferson has savings, that's what they got in the bank, 1.2, would pay the taxes. But you know, they have a board. They have board members, about 21, 22 of them. You know what I find, and I'm not going to go through them all, but the ones that are public or were public officials, Mayor Savacchio worked for the school district how many years? 12 years as a mayor. She's on the board. She advocates not paying their fair share. Judy Lynch worked in the county 20-some years. So between the two of those people, they worked in public service, because I call teaching public service. Thank you, the teachers. Thank you, Mel, for what you do with his kids. Thank you for the basketball league. Public service, they've worked over probably 70 years in public service, and they advocate not paying their fair share. Do any of you answer your phone at home about city business? You don't have to tell me, because I know all of you do. Solicitor Betza, they deserve a tax break. They should all be on a pilot, because they're answering their phone at home. They're using their phone as a government building. We don't tax government buildings, do we? Isn't it almost stupid that I'm here talking about, that I would have to be here talking about this? Is there an amount of arrogance in this community? Okay. Well, it's been nice coming back, because I do appreciate all the work you do, because it's not easy trying to stretch a nickel and make it $1. But good luck. But don't give anybody tax breaks. Come on. Don't even talk about it. Let's, all of you tonight at the end, talk about this. Say, you know what, Attorney Betza, you don't have to do anything for us. We've got more important stuff to do. Thank you.
My name is Mary DiTullio, and I live at 4356 Miller Avenue. Martin Luther King once said that our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter. I would like to share research, confirmed facts regarding water fluoridation. The hydrofluorosilicic acid that is added to our water system by the Water Authority is not like the fluoride found in toothpaste. It's not pharmaceutical grade. It is the waste product that is collected in the air pollution control systems of certain industries. The citizens of Erie never gave their consent to be mass medicated. There has never been a single randomized controlled trial to demonstrate water fluoridation's effectiveness or safety, and it is virtually impossible to control the dose. The Water Authority has now started adding additional chlorine to the water supply. This combines with hydrofluorosilicic acid, leaches the lead from the pipes, putting us on track to be the next Flint, Michigan. Bottle-fed babies receive the highest doses of fluoride. In Erie, many young mothers are given free formula containing fluoride through the WIC program. Those mothers then reconstitute that formula with water from the faucet that contains an additional hydrofluorosilicic acid. These babies are given up to 8 to 10 bottles a day. They're also bathed in water containing hydrofluorosilicic acid. In most cases, this intense neurological assault goes on for up to 2 years. This is a whole generation of neurologically damaged people that will be the future of Erie. The hydrofluorosilicic acid that is added to our water system is a direct cause of neurodevelopmental disabilities, including autism, ADD, ADHD, dyslexia, dementia, Alzheimer's, and other cognitive impairments. It also increases the risk for arthritis, bone disease, fractures, and it is a contributing factor in thyroid, kidney, and heart disease. The prevalence of ADHD has increased significantly between 1997 and 2016. That's not surprising, with 75% of U.S. cities fluoridating their water. It's important to note that there is a direct association of ADHD and criminal activities. And once again, mothers and fathers in Erie have lost children to gun violence. This happens on a regular basis. Hydrofluorosilicic acid has been proven to be even more harmful to African Americans. The numbers of murdered African Americans is a grim confirmation of that research. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to put the pieces of the puzzle together. I think we can all agree it takes someone who is mentally imbalanced to commit such a horrific act upon another person. Controlled doses of fluoride can be achieved for the children whose parents and dentists want it by initiating a program for the distribution of prescription fluoride tablets. This has been done in many cities that have stopped water fluoridation. It's up to you to do the right thing. Immediately disband the Water Authority and reappoint a new authority at once with responsible people who will ensure that the citizens of Erie get the clean, safe water they deserve. Doing it this way, the Water Authority retains their debt. This plan was originally discussed by the City Council in 2002, but unfortunately, the mayor at that time had his own agenda. City Council and the mayor can stop this now. Do not let them continue to poison you, your families, or the citizens of Erie. Will you follow the example of the previous council that was concerned about the health of the citizens? Or will you follow the example of Rick Filippi, the previous mayor? If you really care about Erie, err on the side of safety. It has been suggested to me that eventually a study session could be done to determine whether or not hydrofluorosilicic acid that is being added to our water system is causing harm. The studies have all been done. There are over 300 of them. You were given several when I spoke to you the last time, and you hold even more of them in your hands tonight. There is no need to waste taxpayers' money and reinvent the wheel. Every day you wait, another life is lost. But since printing all 300 studies for each of you is impractical, I'm submitting that list to you in its entirety, Madam President, because you understand the pain that my mother endured.
Jason Brundle, 4131 McClellan Avenue, Erie, PA 16510. I pause for a second. September 25th is going to be voter registration day in the city of Erie. Thank you. Thank you, Kathy Schaaf, for standing up for why we are here. We have a city council, we have a mayor's administration, and we have citizens, just like me, standing here to be heard. I see the American flag, the Commonwealth flag, the City of Erie flag, our banners of who we are as citizens. We are the citizens of the City of Erie. The power is in the vote. And if we register all citizens, new citizens, and to make sure that the conversation is inclusive, and to make sure that the conversation is productive, proactive, and to make sure that everything is being done according to we the people. We the people of the City of Erie love our country, our Commonwealth, and our city. And I cannot wait to see the numbers from the voter registration day, and I applaud you, Kathy Schaaf, for doing that and creating a new tradition. This is our inclusive democracy. Speaking of inclusive democracy, the gay conversion therapy ban. My thought was this whenever I came to City Council for the past year. Inclusion. The Urban Land Institute talked about the we over me theory. And they said everybody wants a piece of the pie. Well, guess what? Equitable participation is democracy. Equitable participation in all aspects of life makes things a little bit better. Like how Sonia stood up for Mothers Against Teen Violence, how Mel Witherspoon stands up for the Interleague for the basketball, how Jim stands up. I saw him at the Irish Fest. He stood up. He's a community member. And Liz Allen, she stands up. She does her research. She does her, her homework. And Kathy Schaaf, she does her homework. We all do our homeworks, Bob and Kaz and everyone. We do our homework. We come to the table. And on the agenda, Mayor Schenberg, thank you for your year of turning the city into an inclusive city, not just for the LGBT community with your council, but for all, we the people. And on that agenda, it looks like what the Human Rights Campaign that I've came to you about with creating not just maybe the council that you just awesomely did for us, but how you're doing it. You're doing a beautiful job. Thank you for standing up for everybody. Whether we like it or not, we are standing up for what we believe. And what we believe is Erie moving forward with inclusion on our mind. Because whenever we think about it, we're here for the children. We're here for the next generation. And I might want to say maybe half of that $1 million that the Jefferson owes could go to the viaduct, would you say? I don't know. Throw that idea out there. But that's just like ideas. And we are working together so beautifully with these conversations that are constructive and that are moving forward. Negativity, division, divisiveness does not work in America, in Erie. What works is love. Love trumps everything. And with that being said, when we have an LGBT youth at St. Luke's, Erie High School, they can pray to know that they can pray in their own place and be safe, fear from judgment. They won't have to worry about living in a community that is exclusive or that is divisive or dangerous. With that band that Kathy Schaaf stood up and did a resolution for is going to create a thriving, safer, judgment-free, hate-free community we need, not just for the LGBT community, but for all communities. Thank you so much. And last question, if you could update the City of Erie on where the Municipal Equality Index will look like in 2019. Like, where does it stand? Because we have to raise that score. That's the last thing. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. My name is Andrew Capper. I live at 513 Peach Street. I'm just here to talk about how the city is functioning. I am an urban planner, and I'd like to talk about it from an urban planning sense. I am really concerned about how the city has not been able to update how it functions departmentally. I understand the city has an urban planner, but does not have an urban planning department. With that, you'd be able to maybe have a Office of Smart Cities. I understand that Erie's starting to function in the smart city aspect. There is no Department of Transportation. I just recently walked around parts of the Upper and Lower East Sides, and there are no sidewalks. For a city this size, there needs to be some sidewalks. It is depressing and it is sad. I'm concerned about how there's the economic development department is not actually doing any economic development. My parents were up here a week ago, and they said nothing has absolutely changed besides Erie Insurance and some things from Hammett and St. Vincent. I'd like to talk about where I live. I live on the 500 block of Peach Street on Perry Square. I have to walk to work to Erie Insurance. I do not feel safe. There are no lights in Perry Square that are bright enough. They are mismatched. There is a group of 20 same people that hang out there every day. They have broke into the electrical boxes on Perry Square and have plugged stuff in. One of them recently has gotten shot from plugging into the wrong plug. I had messaged the city and they put locks on that. I'd like to thank the city for doing that. I was just recently also up to where I live. I just recently talked to one of the neighbors I know and said that one of the houses was a meth lab. Honestly, I'd like to know how that occurred and why the house has not been torn down. I have just also recently walked the McBride Viaduct. I'm sure you'll hear from these wonderful people behind me next. But I'm an urban planner and I walked along the Bayfront Parkway. It is not safe. What don't you people understand about that? No one should have to walk along a road where traffic is going 45 to 70 miles per hour. There is very little sidewalks, and there is no barriers. There is nothing. I lived in Cincinnati, Ohio. They have the same issue with their Western Hills Viaduct. It is not safe. People actually have to walk in the road, and people on that road go 80 miles an hour where it's supposed to be 40. If you people tear this down, I will be utterly disappointed from an urban planning aspect that this city is still stuck in the 1970s. I can't believe the city also owns golf courses. You have a golf fund that spends $700,000, and some of that money can go to the viaduct. It can be used to fix it, to save it, to make improvements. I still can't believe that there is either no lighting authority, no sewer authority, or anything else. The lighting authority can be used to fix these street lights and these traffic lights and make them functional so the city wouldn't actually have to pay for it themselves. They can take out bonds and make improvements and add street lights where they are needed. They've done this in Detroit, and I'm sure you've heard the story about Detroit. They declared bankruptcy and have started over. I don't want the city to declare bankruptcy. I don't want the city to be an Ad 47 like Scranton is, like Altoona, like Reading, like Harrisburg, or any of that. I'm also concerned about how the city is actually funding itself. Has anybody thought of a fire fee? This fee could be used to expand the fire department, buy new equipment, hire new people, or do anything else. This city needs to take a hard look at itself and see how it runs. Because honestly, after what happened 5 years ago, where you had to delay the debt payments, to where now it's more expensive, Erie, you have to pay the piper. It's time to pay it. It's time to fix it. Don't rest on your laurels anymore. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. Adam Trott, 531 West 6th Street, second floor. Several things to report on. First up, the Lake Erie Cycle Fest had their wrap-up meeting last night up at WQLN. The event, for the second year in a row, exceeded expectations. There were a lot of good ideas thrown out for how to make the next round of improvements for 2019. So keep your ears perked. I think it's going to be even a better event next year. The Jefferson Educational Society, I guess, oh, Randy left. I guess he and I could have a good point-counterpoint, because it is a good debatable issue about the Jefferson and some other nonprofits. A lot of my clients are nonprofits. I can tell you they work their tail to the bone on hairstring budgets, especially with the cutbacks in federal funding that they've been suffering through in the last 6 to 8 years. So a lot of nonprofits do what the city can't do, and that's why they're tax exempt, because they are taking up the load that the city can't. Now, you can't bundle them all in the same basket. Some are exceptionally good and some are marginal. But I can tell you from working with them, a lot of them are really vital to this city keeping its head up high where it is. Specifically the Jefferson, I personally am deeply grateful for them being here. They bring a Chautauqua Institute level of citizen education and awareness to Erie's backyard. I think that's fantastic. I've done work for them. I've given them free services because I believe in their cause. So I, for one, am a fan. I hope you work out a decent pilot agreement. The gentleman that talked about Western Hills, that viaduct project in Cincinnati, I gave information to City Council 2 to 3 years ago when I gave a series of similar projects being done around the country where they are repurposing roads that were shared into bike pedestrian only, and the Western Hills in Cincinnati was one of them. So if you kept that, you probably have information on that you can school up on. Now, on another matter, I'd like to touch base on the Irish Festival. We had a very respectable, esteemed educator, researcher did work to identify how important the McBride Viaduct is to the Irish culture of Erie. And she made a banner that explained how literally the Irish built the viaduct. And it's an iconic structure for the Erie Irish heritage that they can be proud of. And unfortunately, and she presented this idea to the Irish Cultural Society, and they applauded it. So she shows up at the Irish Festival with the banner, and the reaction from the festival management was, oh, that's too political, and they denied everyone at the festival being able to celebrate that heritage pride that, hey, we built that back in 1938. Not only did we build it, but that structure is a symbol of the Irish political power of that day. That is why she did it. And it wasn't an overnight project. She spent weeks researching, making sure she had all the facts right, so she could present it knowing that it was factually on point. So what my biggest disappointment is the reception of that at the festival was completely off base. It was never meant to be political. It was meant to help the Irish celebrate something that is very iconic for them. But the atmosphere and the public narrative that's been so poisoned by City Hall on this subject created the environment where they interpreted it wrongfully. And there have been people from City Hall that have particularly been very, very negative and poisonous and divisive with the way they've regarded the viaduct. Now, we have done everything possible to lay out the hero's path. And you could decide tomorrow to be a hero. But I'm asking you, please, don't divide the city anymore. Respect what's done, identify heritage assets, and let's move building on what we already have. Thank you.
Hi there. Do we have to introduce ourselves? Okay. Sydney Zimmerman, 413 West 9th Street, upper apartment. So the last time I was here, it was during a study session for community benefit agreements with Erie County United. And we had a little bit of homework assigned to us to reach out to developers within our community and invite them to a sit-down to talk about CBAs, see what their thoughts were on it. And as far as I understood, Council was going to be discussing a date to put this on the agenda for most likely a study session rather than a council evening like tonight. And so I would just like to remind everybody that we have been doing our part. We have written our letter. We would like to put a date on it to have them meet with those involved with Erie County United and as well as those involved with city government. That way we don't have to keep going back and forth. And so since we've done our side of the homework, I'm just going to ask you guys to please respond to Kate Coley and let her know what a date is that could be put on the agenda. Because we have been waiting to hear back from you guys, and we would like to move forward on this and give the developers a date that they can come to the table and discuss this with all of us. So that's what I have in regard to community benefit agreements. And just to follow up with some of the citizens that came before me, first and foremost, as you can see, I'm wearing orange. I am in support of keeping the viaduct. I believe that it is vital to pedestrians on the east side who don't necessarily have another means of transportation besides maybe a bike or public transportation, that being that they don't have a car. And so using the bayfront the way that a lot of us can isn't an option for them. And so I think that we need to protect those who, need the viaduct to be able to get safely from the store, from school, or from visiting friends and family, wherever they may be going, especially our children. With the school district having issues busing children and the topic coming up that, kids are walking along streets and they're young and they most likely don't have a parent walking with them because their parent probably has to get to their job and doesn't have the time to walk the kids to school, and we don't have our buses the way that we used to get the kids to school. We need to think about those who can't speak up for themselves, and children are definitely a group that we need to stand up for. I mean, we just had all these beautiful kids that we honored, these basketball players. What if next year one of them isn't with us because they were walking near the bayfront and something happened? I mean, I just would not feel right about that, and I don't think anybody else will feel right about it if a child is hurt. And so keeping the viaduct open to protect people, I think that makes sense, especially if the viaduct is in good enough shape to park cars underneath it. If it's not structurally sound, then maybe people shouldn't be parking under it. But if people are parking under it, then I think people can walk on top of it. And if it can't, what can we do to make sure that these people have a safe route to where they're going? Also, to follow up with the Jefferson Society, I do believe that they give back to our community in a meaningful way, but we all have dues that we have to pay and we need to be held accountable for. And seeing the shape of our education system, seeing the shape of our roads, seeing that we could use more people inside city government doing jobs that could be productive for our community, I don't think we should take away from our tax base. And I, too, go to programs at the Jefferson and would be willing to pay an extra $2, $5 to go and see a program, because most of the people who go to those programs, they can afford that increase. But the people in this city cannot afford a decrease in our tax base. Also, to follow up with the fluoride comment, I believe the last time that information was presented or similar information was presented, another citizen brought up the fact that the water treatment plant can be spoken with, and that can easily be removed. I mean, there is a lot of evidence to show that it's especially harmful to the pineal gland. So I would ask you guys to consider that as they did in 2002. Also, Freda has brought up the fact that it would be great to have a community calendar. That way, study sessions can be posted there and any other pertinent events, and have it be regularly updated so people can view it and trust it. And then last but not least, in regard to better urban planning, I completely agree with the fact that we need better sidewalks, better lighting, especially if our kids are going to be walking to school. That's all I have. Thank you so much for your time.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. I'm a member of Erie CPR, and I'm respectfully requesting a public hearing on the projected demolition of the McBride Viaduct. We at CPR firmly believe that once the citizens of Erie learn the true facts and realize the true value...
Excuse me. Your name and address, please.
Oh, Dorothy Jordan, 3436 West 10th Street. I'm like the teacher. I have to write everything down. That's because I'm probably getting Alzheimer's, not. Anyway. Did I give my address? 3436 West 10th Street. We believe that once the citizens of Erie learn the true facts and realize their true value, to the people of Erie, especially to the poor, the powerless, and disabled citizens, along with the disenfranchised, particularly the children, that all of Erie County will mobilize and get behind this project and make it a monumental success. There has been a lot of misinformation circulating around the city. One is that there have been enough meetings on this subject. That may be true, but there's a major difference between a public meeting and a public hearing. A public meeting is a very tightly controlled meeting where the public or private organization shares information with the public on a project such as the Coke plant or the viaduct. The purpose of the meeting is to encourage a dialogue regarding possible ramifications of the proposed project. The officials of the proposed project may take questions from the public, but the content of the answered questions does not become a part of the official record. In other words, the conclusions of the meeting are controlled by the organizing entity and can be completely slanted toward a predetermined outcome. In other words, obfuscated to confuse the public in their favor. Erie CPR is asking for a public hearing. A public hearing, on the other hand, is an official proceeding run by an independent, hopefully unbiased third party, usually a judge. The purpose of this public hearing is to get public opinion and commentary on the record and under oath. Under oath, sworn testimony. The proceeding is officially recorded by a stenographer, and an official transcript is generated for public record that, if necessary, can be used for legal proceedings. The entity organization, such as the mayor, city officials, or Erie CPR, are all under oath, sworn testimony, for anything they say can and could be held accountable legally for lying to the public. So when the mayor or other city council members say we've had enough public meetings, that gives a false impression and misleading impression to the Erie citizens, because there's been a plethora of misleading information and distortion of facts, including by an opinion writer on the Erie Times News. We members of CPR continue to request a public hearing in hopes of allaying the concerns, the misrepresentation, distortions, and lies regarding our effort to save the viaduct and turn it into a safe passage across the CSX railroad tracks for our Erie's children and disabled citizens. Sadly, too many politicians are self-serving, catering to their wealthiest contributors. Can we continue to blindly trust our politicians? Just ask the parents of the thousands of brain-damaged children in Flint, Michigan. Was the governor or city manager concerned about the possible brain damage and a myriad of physical ailments when they decided to transfer Flint's water supply from Lake Michigan to the heavily polluted Flint River in order to save money, knowing the people of Flint were completely ignorant of the potential danger? The incompetent leadership who betrayed the families of Flint are now facing legal action, and some may be facing prison time. Again, I will ask you, who is responsible for the deplorable condition of the viaduct? Who allowed the intentional neglect? I thank you for allowing me to speak.
Mr. Mayor, good evening. President Arrington, good evening. Council members, good evening. You know, you look just like your dad. Used to play basketball with him all the time.
He has a full head of hair, though.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did. My name is Steve Mooney. I live at 1122 East 37th Street here in Erie. I'm a lifelong citizen of Erie, Pennsylvania, except for 4 years, which I did in the Air Force and lived in Japan and Italy. I'm here because I have a question I've been asking myself. I've watched city council, I've watched the growth and transitions of the city that I've been living in all my life. And I did have a question that has come and risen within me at this point, and it is, do we have small problems that can become major issues that we need to come up with solutions for now before that happens? One of the things that I am questioning is, as far as my council is concerned that serves the city, and I vote for, the public persona that is shown by each and every one of you. First of all, I'd like to say I started this movement, that I'm going to call it, with an attack on certain things Wednesday night when I went to the school district meeting. The officials there was a gentleman that came from Hammett Hospital to receive an award, and the president of the school district council, whatever you might call it, I'm not sure exactly what you call it, school district representatives. He took a picture with a gentleman from Hammett who was wearing a suit and tie and very well dressed and professional, and he was in dungarees and a plaid shirt. I thought it was appalling and very unprofessional. So my question is, what are we showing, what are we teaching our children? This issue came up when I was picking up my grandson, who now attends Strong Vincent as a junior high school, and I saw where the parents who come to pick up their children, there's a side of the school where the buses are to park and prepare themselves to pick up the kids. But the parents seem to have no respect whatsoever for the buses. They would take their buses, parking spots and things like that. So I called the school district and I called the city parking authority, and I asked them, can anything be done? And I was told there are no rules for parking around our city schools when it's the period in which parents are dropping off or picking up their kids. And that's why I now have the issue of small problems. Do we have any? And if we can come up with any solutions. There's another issue that has been resonating with me, and that is the one here nationwide, where Black Americans are being pulled over by the police, and that was such a big issue. I haven't heard too much about it here recently, but it was a major issue. I mean, I was pulled over myself many years ago when I was driving a 1964 Cadillac. If you can imagine, this was what do they call it? There's a term for it, maybe I'll think of it later. A hoopty. This was my hoopty. And they pulled me over to tell me that I appeared to be resembling someone they were looking for. And I'm driving a hoopty, okay? I cooperated with them totally, but I understand the situation as far as African Americans being upset about being pulled over. And I'm asking, is that a small problem that we can find solutions for? I'd like to build a movement towards finding solutions for the small problems that may not wind up as major issues for the city that I live in later on with the next generation. You see now in the news where there's a lot of issues, and they all started with being pulled over because you appeared to be someone who looked like someone we were looking for, okay? So as far as that goes, I was trying to come up with a solution for that particular issue. And I thought maybe, what does the police department do as far as that's concerned? And something came up about checkpoints, DUI checkpoints. Why we don't have checkpoints for driver's licenses, driver's license and registration, driver's license, registration, and insurance, which is what everyone should have in their possession when they're driving their vehicle. Why we don't have checkpoints to check and see that if that's being done. I'm afraid to go out here and get myself in an accident with anybody in this city because they may not have insurance. Okay? Small solutions, small problems that we can find solutions for. And I'd like to start a movement if you would help me with that. Thank you so much.
Good Good evening. I'm Paul Yocklin, 5311 Roslindale Avenue, and I'm an 82-year-old citizen of Erie, Pennsylvania, and I'm proud of it. I have a radio show. I refer to Erie as the Gem City because it is the Gem City. It's absolutely beautiful and growing more beautiful each and every day, and I'm very proud of it. I've been throughout this country and out of the country to some wonderful cities and towns, but I refuse to leave. This is a beautiful city, and I commend each and every one of you because we're full of gems here tonight, and listen, it's a pleasure, it's a privilege for me to be able to address you. But I've been asked to give my opinion, and I will, because I've driven over that bridge, and I've walked over that bridge, and I've pedaled my bike over that bridge, and it does have an Irish name to it. And Lisa asked me if I was Irish. I said, I'm half. She said, well, that's good enough. You know, what's your opinion? What do you think about McBride? Well, I said, well, yeah, I'm familiar with it and what's going on to a certain degree. But yes, I feel that there's more positives than negatives where that's concerned. I think it could be a beautiful part. Like we were down at the dock yesterday, my wife and I. It's just so beautiful down there. It's a gem. The whole city's a gem, and I think it could be. I think if it were, I think that was made to last another 80 years. And when the people put that together, they put it together for forever. But I think where there's a will, there's a way, and if you can possibly do it, I think it would be, there's more positives than negatives there. But at any rate, that's my opinion, Lisa. You asked me to come up and give it, and there it is. So listen, thank you for listening to me, and Your Honor, it's a pleasure once again. Thank you. By the way, what happened to, where'd he go? Kaz. He asked me to jump. I say, how high? But anyhow.
Still doesn't hear you.
Listen, hey, thank you. Have a wonderful night. And listen, enjoy this fall. It's going to be awesome here in the Gem City. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Doris Apolla, 8640 East Lake Road. It was nice tonight to see your hair kind of down, with the kids coming up, being congratulated. Mr. Witherspoon, congratulations for doing such a good job.
Your hair looks nice now.
But it was wonderful to just see you as people, in a sense. And then, of course, then the meeting starts. And it becomes discouraging. I've been here before, you know, talking about the same thing, reiterating the viaduct, the need for the viaduct. We have a woman here concerned about fluoridation, the water, and yes, it is a very serious concern. And I remember when that happened, and I remember when Rick Filippi turned it over to the Water Authority, unfortunately. So I hope if something can be done about it, you can. The safety for everyone who uses that viaduct is important. And that safety is not just a matter of vehicular safety, it is a matter of what people have to breathe. And I ask you again and again, walk it, smell it, stand there for an hour. Do you want your children, your grandchildren, do you want to be a victim of having to breathe that? It's insane. I think this whole issue has to be looked at. I don't know what happened politically, that this thing became a no, the viaduct's got to go. And it's like nobody is open to doing anything about this. And it just seems like, let's be people. Let's care about people. You talk about the heart of the lion. Well, how about listening with the ear of your heart? Thank you.
Are there any more citizens to be heard?
Good evening, Council, Mayor. My name is Lisa Austin, 1262 West 9th. I'm here to just touch on a dozen of the falsehoods surrounding the viaduct that Dorothy Jordan has alluded to tonight. Number one, no one uses the bridge. We know that at least 200 trips go over it a day. You perhaps don't know them unless you actually have stood on the bridge, as a number of us have, and gotten to meet them. If you look at our Facebook page, you can actually hear from them directly. They will never come here. They have to walk pretty much everywhere they go. Number two, the bridge is beyond repair. We know that's not true. Bridges in worse condition are being fixed all across the country. Number three, falsehood, it will cost the taxpayers $250 a household. That's $10 million. It's not true. We know that PennDOT, you guys have received a copy of it, they're willing to put $1.26 million towards fixing the bridge. The city's already committed over $70,000. That only leaves a $20,000 gap for initial stabilization. Number four, the fourth falsehood is that the people in barbershops don't care about the bridge. In this case, that's a code word for black people. I want to point out that the national NAACP and the African American Concerned Clergy have both written asking to have this public hearing that's been mentioned over and over again. Number five, we continually hear that the bridge is redundant, structurally deficient, and functionally obsolete. These terms were referenced in a study specifically for car use. It is in a city you want as many redundancies as possible for people to be connected. We need the bridge to connect the east side that is already so divided. Structurally deficient means it needs repairs, it can be fixed. And functionally obsolete has nothing to do with foot traffic. It only has to do with tractor trailers and other vehicles. So it's a useless statement to make about the bridge in the use that we're proposing. Number six, there's been enough talking. That is just not true. There's been talking, but there's been no public hearing, as was outlined by Dorothy Jordan. Number seven, a 501c3 should just adopt the bridge. This is a ridiculous idea. Why should an individual nonprofit be in charge of city property? It's just like the Frontier Park. A partnership should be established. Number eight, it's too much to insure the bridge. This is more baloney. The insurance bill for the city does not include a separate line item for the bridge, so the city's not going to save money by tearing it down. Number nine, it costs too much to maintain the bridge. This is not true. It's less than $5,000 a year to clean the storm drains, which haven't been cleaned on a regular basis, and maintain the bridge. I want to point out that we, an ad hoc group of people, have put together, we've raised $10,000 just this year. So that's twice the money that's necessary to maintain the bridge. Let's see, number 10 out of 12 here is that there's bigger things to worry about than the bridge. I want to point out it's not just a bridge. It's the health and safety of the East Side residents who don't have cars, including school children. Mayor DiTullio spoke earlier about the water. This is the air. We have to worry about this, not to mention the impact of getting hit by a vehicle. It's not just a bridge, it's also jobs. After this investment, more jobs can be created on the east side because of that. That's been documented. Private and public investment results in private investment. And then another really important thing is hope and pride. Saving the bridge will create more hope and pride in this side of town. Another big reason that's already been mentioned is the idea of a heritage site. This is a physical embodiment of the vision and the persistence of 3 first-generation Irishmen who built St. Anne's Church. Then they fought to build the viaduct itself to protect East Side children from the dangerous railroad tracks where at least one was killed. A century later, we are trying to keep kids safe. Now, number 11 is the falsehood is that there's nothing you can do about it. You absolutely have the power to call a public hearing. And people say the contract's already been written. The contracts are always written so that you can undo them if you're the municipality. And number 12, it's too late. It is not too late. I've used this analogy before. You're walking down the aisle to get married. You realize it's just not the right thing. You turn around. You can still turn this one around. Be the hero. Thank you.
I'd like to start saying peace be unto you. Assalamu alaikum. And I do come in peace. My name is Cynthia Muhammad, 2213 Parade, Erie, lifelong resident and advocate for the black community, for the poor. I just want to say that the bridge is just happens to be one of the things that we need to reflect on. The bridge just happens to be in the wrong place at this time. I would like to ask, why was it neglected by the city? What is it that the poor people over on the east side have done to be treated like they're being treated? I know you never answer anybody's questions. I used to come down here with Irma Lindsay and y'all never say anything. One time I came down and asked a question, they said Fred Rush will be in touch with you. Oh, he left. But anyway, I don't know why. And I guess it's not a personal opinion that you all have to not respect the people there that can't do for themselves. And I'd like to say to the mayor, I remember you saying on the news that you talked to God about this. What did God say? In the Bible, I read that the God said that the poor you will have with you all the time. That means you're supposed to take care of them. And I would hope that you all would consider, because I'm a part of CPR, and they want a hearing. But I think that city should be sued for not taking care of the viaduct. You took care of the one on Frontier, the one on Norman Way. What's the problem? Thank you for your time. The redlining of the east side, as Irma Lindsay, as I said, taught me, was a prerequisite for gentrification. Shame on you.
Are there any more citizens to be heard? Are there any more citizens to be heard? Last call for citizens to be heard. That takes us into ordinance for final passage.
Council file number 15642, official ordinance number 31, 2018, an ordinance appropriating the sum of $61,894.63 of program income generated through the home program for the Home M14 projects. By Mr. Mursky, seconded by Mr. Kwiatkowski, that council file ordinance bill number 15642, and now known as official file ordinance number 31, 2018, be finally passed by the city council. Where'd I put my pen? Ms. Allen, Mr. Kwiatkowski, Mr. Mursky, Mrs. Schaaf, Mr. Winarski, Mr. Witherspoon, Mrs. Arrington. City Council pass official file ordinance number 31, 2018, finally by yea 7, nay 0. Council file 15643, official ordinance number 32, 2018, an ordinance appropriating the sum of $8,000 of program income generated through the home program for the Home M15 projects. By Mr. Mursky, second by Mr. Kwiatkowski, the council file ordinance bill number 15643, and now known as official file ordinance number 32, 2018, be finally passed by the city council. Ms. Allen, Mr. Kwiatkowski, Mr. Mursky, Mrs. Schaaf, Mr. Winarski, Mr. Witherspoon, Mrs. Arrington. City Council passed official file ordinance number 32, 2018, finally by yea 7, nay 0. Council file 15644, official ordinance number 33, 2018, an ordinance closing and vacating approximately 100-foot-long section of unimproved alley between Chestnut Street and Myrtle Street, between West 25th Street and West 26th Street, with a reservation of the existing utility rights-of-way. By Mr. Kwiatkowski, second by Mr. Mursky, the council file ordinance bill number 15644, and now known as official file ordinance number 33, 2018, be finally passed by the city council. Ms. Allen, Mr. Kwiatkowski, Mr. Mursky, Mrs. Shaw, Mr. Winarski, Mr. Witherspoon, Mrs. Arrington. City Council passed official file ordinance number 33, 2018, finally by yeas 7, nays 0. Ordinances for first reading. Council file number 15645, an ordinance appropriating the sum of $148,141 from unappropriated and anticipated revenue and providing for the expenditure thereof, PCCD Gun Violence Reduction Grant. By Mr. Winarski, second by Mr. Witherspoon, the council file ordinance number 15645, having been read, is hereby adopted on first reading by the City Council. Ms. Allen, Mr. Kwiatkowski, Mr. Mursky, Mrs. Shaw, Mr. Winarski, Mr. Witherspoon, Mrs. Arrington. City Council read and adopt council file ordinance number 15645 by yeas 7, nays 0 on first reading. Council file 15646, an ordinance amending subsection 145.07G of the codified ordinances, Article 145, officers and employees retirement system by changing the enrollment period to enter the deferred retirement option plan to any day of the year for the employee for a term of no more than 3 years. By Mr. Kwiatkowski, second by Mr. Mursky, the council file ordinance number 15646, having been read, is hereby adopted on first reading by the City Council. Ms. Allen, Mr. Kwiatkowski, Mr. Mursky, Mrs. Shaw, Mr. Winarski, Mr. Witherspoon, Mrs. Arrington. City Council read and adopt council file ordinance number 15646 by yeas 7, nays 0 on first reading. That'll take us into new business.
Madam President, I'd like to make a motion to move the balance of the agenda.
I'll second it.
Are there any separations?
No separations? Okay, moving the balance of the agenda. Ms. Allen, Mr. Kwiatkowski, Mr. Mursky, Mrs. Shaw, Mr. Winarski, Mr. Witherspoon, Mrs. Arrington.
Cheer, Allen.
Yay. Okay, we do have a waiver rules, so we'll go to that next. And this is a contract between the Housing Authority for the community policing, and it was just a late entry by the administration. So voting to waive the rules, Ms. Allen, Mr. Kwiatkowski, Mr. Mursky, Mrs. Shaw, Mr. Winarski, Mr. Witherspoon, Mrs. Arrington. By Mr. Witherspoon and seconded by Mrs. Shaw, resolved by the Council of the City of Erie that the proper city officials are hereby authorized and directed to execute the agreement between the City of Erie and the Housing Authority of the City of Erie, HACE, for continuation of community-oriented police services to create a drug and crime-free environment and to provide for the safety and protection of the residents in its public housing developments and all other HACE locations for an additional term of 2 years, commencing September 1st, 2018 through August 31st, 2020. Ms. Allen, Mr. Kwiatkowski, Mr. Mursky, Mrs. Shaw, Mr. Winarski, Mr. Witherspoon, Mrs. Arrington. And that'll take us to committee reports, Madam President.
We'll start with Mr. Mursky.
All right, thank you, Madam President. Just a couple things to report. I attended the United Way Labor Kickoff Dinner the other night, and I wanted to congratulate Mayor Schember on his award for his years of service, not just to the city, but also to the community. Well-deserved, and United Way does a lot for our community. Their big mission now is to defeat poverty, and so one of the things that they're working on is working with families, working with schools, and working with emergency needs. Those are their three areas of focus. And one of the things that is particularly dear to my heart is their Imagination Library, where they provide over 10,000 families in this community with books every month for children under the age of 5. It's free of charge, all donations from people from the United Way, which is our Erie community. And I wanted to thank in a particular way our folks in the labor movement who have generously given to the United Way through the years. United Way is funded through community donations, and most of the money that is raised here in our community stays right here in our community, and that's important. And so we, again, congratulations, Mayor. And if your employer contributes, it does a drive for the United Way, I encourage everybody to do their part and contribute to the United Way so we can help those folks who need it most. Also, Mrs. Allen, the mayor, and I attended the opening of Westerdahl Park. It's a pocket park. Did I say that right? Mm-hmm. That's a tough name. So there was a little hiccup at the opening. There was a fire actually down the street, and it was very impressive to see just how our fire department is in action. I mean, it was really to see how quick they responded, and it was just the word I can just describe it as impressive to see. Everyone knew where to go. They knew exactly what to do, and they tackled that fire immediately. And everyone got out safely, and the community really came together. Everyone in that neighborhood helped out. So that was a little hiccup, but the park itself was beautiful, and it's an asset to that neighborhood, and so we're thankful for that, and the good work that our West Bayfront does in partnership with Gannon University down in that neighborhood. You've seen a lot of progress being made, and I listen to what people say, and we do have our problems in this community, but we also have people working for solutions, and it didn't get this way overnight, and it's not going to transform overnight, but we are taking steps. When I say we, I mean the entire community, not just government, but the private sector and also good folks in the public sector who are working together to combat poverty, to combat blight, and to transform our neighborhoods. And the workload is heavy, but if we all work together, like you said, we can all get it done. Everyone does their little part. Don't let the small problems become big problems. That's half the battle. And that's all I have to report today, Madam President. Thank you.
Okay, I have 5 things, but short for me for a change. There will be a study session with the Sewer Authority on Thursday, October 4th at 5:30 p.m. about the proposed capital improvement project, $29 million project, which would start with the engineering design in 2019 and then construction in 2020, and it's a phased-in project. We will try to do that study session in 30 minutes, maximum of 40 minutes, and we'll have an agenda, so we move through that quickly. Kathy Schaaf and I attended a budget workshop sponsored by the Council of Governments at Lawrence Park Township a week ago. We learned a lot about the basics of building a budget, audits, chart of accounts, et cetera. And I think the information we gained will be really useful as the administration and city council move forward in what will be a very challenging budget for 2019. I worked with Nika Nesteri Carpenter on the application she's preparing for Erie to be certified as a welcoming city for refugees and immigrants, and it was a lot of fun to be able to do that with Nika and to realize how much progress and intentional that Erie is intentional in being welcoming. So it was great to be able to put that application together. We will be advertising on the city's website for a citizen to be named to the Water Authority. Caitlin Dolick, who was just appointed several months ago to replace Michael Outlaw when he joined the administration, she has taken a new job in Nashville. So I put together some criteria and shared it with Kathy Schaaf, who is the liaison to the Water Authority. And you remind people this is an unpaid position, and I think you should have experience in water quality and the environment, public health, customer service, finance, or community and neighborhood issues. I am going to state right now, though, I am not going to go down the rabbit hole on the fluoride issue. All you have to do is Google fluoride and conspiracy theories, and I think this issue is settled. I am very disappointed that some citizens now seem to be tying any issue that they have, coming to the podium and breaking the hearts, basically, of people who have lost children, Sonia to gun violence, me to a medical condition, and claiming that somehow fluoride is responsible for gun violence in the inner city, and that then people are talking about brain damage. Don't exploit heartbreaking issues to bring your issue to the attention of city officials. And on a happier note, I had taken part in the Cleanliness and Friendliness Seminar a couple of months ago, which is being led by the the Erie Downtown Development, not the EDDC, but the partnership. And there will be some more updates coming on that in October. And I totally agree with what Bob Bursky said about the fact that things are moving forward to Erie. And I guess sometimes it just depends on if you're looking at things half full or half empty, and I'm always a half full kind of person. I'm just really excited about the collaboration and cooperation that you see in many areas of the city, including some good things that will be happening for the east side. I drove by Wayne Park, and I see that, there's a playground going up there. Kids were getting out of school, and it just seemed like there was, just by driving by, I could tell the kids were excited to see that cool playground that's being erected there. Big red slide, I think. It's going to make that park into something, instead of being just a passive park, it's going to be something that people will be able to enjoy. So thank you. I wasn't quite sure how that came about. I think, Mayor, you were there when it was unveiled a couple of weeks ago. So lots of good positive signs all around our city.
Thank you, Madam President, and I'd like to congratulate the young men who received the rewards. They are outstanding. They are leaders. They will be leaders. Hopefully all of them will go to college and come back and work in Erie and continue to make Erie a better place to live for the kids that follow them. Also, I agree in many cases with Mr. Mursky and Councilwoman Liz. Erie is a great place to live. Sometimes people come up to the microphone and threaten to leave Erie because of fluoride. When that issue existed initially, I'll never forget, one guy said he moved to Erie from Buffalo because Erie didn't have fluoride. Now he was going to move back. Well, I drink the water in Pittsburgh, I drink the water in Jersey, I drink the water wherever I go.
How about the Kool-Aid?
Shut up. For the public's knowledge, I don't like Jim Wynorski. But the point is, you turn the faucet on in the hotel and you drink a cup of water, you take it with your medicine. I don't call downstairs the front desk and ask them if they have fluoride in their water or not. It's an issue for individuals, it's an issue for groups. I know when it came up previously, I checked with 3 dentists, and they were for it. I said, wouldn't that hurt your business, cavity, etc.? He said, that's okay. It's helping the kids. So we're back with it, and we'll deal with it as it comes, and we'll listen to any new information that may come about. Congratulations, Mayor, on the award that you received from the United Way and the Union kickoff. That was a great moment. I thought I saw a tear come from your eye, but I wasn't sure. But that was great. and I was proud to be a member of the city and a member of your team. Mr. Mirsky was present. He was doing his thing, and I was proud of him, proud to be in the same room with him, and to hear some good things about him. I hear some good things about everyone here, except James Winarski, and I'll talk to you off camera about that. Thank you, Madam President.
Nice to be last sometimes, or after Mel, but no committee reports this evening. Just want to thank the youth that were represented here tonight. It didn't matter whether they were grade school, high school, or college. They represented the city of Erie, they represented this city council, and they do it with dignity and class, and we just want to appreciate them, or show them some appreciation on our part for what they do when they do represent us out, whether it be on the playing field, whether it be in academics, and this was just a small group tonight. We've had many previous, but, and I know we're going to have many more in the future, but for all the young people, back to the glass is half full, and there is a future in this town. There's a future in your lives. I appreciate, as the council appreciates, what you do representing the city of Erie. We did have a few citizens speak regarding the Jefferson Society, and we did get a memo from our solicitor, and we haven't had a full discussion as a council and the administration on that possible pilot. I'm a little leery of accepting a pilot with the Jefferson Society, but that's my personal opinion. I believe we have to start setting a precedent to start getting more properties on the tax rolls, but before we have a full discussion with council, with the administration, we'll comment farther on that. The only other thing, one citizen did mention that council seemed like they let their hair down tonight. Well, maybe most of us did, but I got to give it back to Mel once in a while, but he has his bangs are in his eyes tonight, but that's okay. But all kidding aside, thanks everybody who came out tonight. Thanks for the young citizens who represent Erie, and have a good night.
Thank you, Mayor Joe Schember, for coming to our evening meetings. I think it lends for a positive, and I really appreciate all you do. I want to thank the Public Works who were working on Bird Drive today. A dear, wonderful lady had passed away who lived on Bird Drive probably for over 60 years, and they're paving this street today. And the people who were paving the street stopped and let the funeral procession go up Bird Drive, and they took their hats off in honor and respect for the funeral procession. And they let me know the family that really touched them very much. And so thank you to all the people who did that. That was very, very respectful. National Voter Registration Day is Tuesday, September 25th, and it's out on Facebook. There's going to be people at Erie High and Collegiate Academy, and I'll be at Perry Square from 9 a.m. Through at 4 p.m. And then at 5 through 7 p.m., there's a rock out rally where there's going to be speakers and really stepping it up a notch. There'll be music as well. So thank you for Selena King and all the people who are helping out with that. And this is, it's not about parties. It's about the opportunity to vote. It's not about the Democrats, the Republicans. It's about everybody. It's a privilege to vote, and we want to make all people aware that this will be out there, and it's not the end of the voter registration. It's going on, and you can do it online, but it is a national day for that. Thank you for Jason Brendel for your carrying the grand old flag. I was at the 9/11 day, and how you and your family take care of the very, 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 very large flag. It's probably the largest in maybe the state that we have, and that was beautiful. On 9/11, the memorial service was very, very impressive. I'm thankful that the EMTA buses are still running. There's a bus stop at my house, and I always see people and talk with them. So I'm glad that the buses are running. And I am aware of the McBride Viaduct issue. The CPR, when you're up here, you're preaching like to the choir, because I travel the highway. I know people speed. People rush ahead of me. I know there are accidents. There was one this past week that I put on Erie Keeping Informed on Facebook, because they had closed the highway while they were towing the car off. And there was another accident not too long ago. I know there are accidents. I know they speed. I know people use that bridge. I see people walking on the bridge all the time. So, third-class municipality, here I am, a Erie City Council person. I'm cheering you on. There's nothing else I can say about that. Thank you, Steve, for coming up. You're very positive. You remind me of our maintenance person where I work, because being proactive about things before they become big things is great. Thank you.
Yes, we attended the United Way kickoff dinner also. We also attended the Parking Authority monthly meeting, where we received an update on a new parking program, which is progressing very well and will be rolled out a little bit more each week. And hopefully within the next year or so, we'll have full compatibility. Met with the Police Pension Board, and their funds are now at the highest they've been in a while, and they're doing very well. And things are progressing well there. Also attended the Blighted Property Review Committee meeting. A few more houses were blighted, and we discussed a few issues on how to attack blight and how to change the laws to help the city attack the blight. Recently, I had a chance to tour the 19th Street housing project that's being constructed by Donnie Crenshaw. And I've heard a lot of talking here about CBAs and all that. Well, Mr. Crenshaw is doing it with his mouth and with his wallet. I toured that site, and I was surprised to see a lot of young men working there, many of them minorities. All of a sudden, we found them. I'm amazed. Where'd they come from? I was there, and 5 or 6 people were asking for jobs. So, we need to do a good job. We need to look at this objectively and say, how is he doing it? Take a walk up there. He'll be glad to give you the same tour I had. That's a rather nice housing project, and the young men working there, it proves that they want jobs too. EMTA issue, here we go again. It was 2 years ago when we went through this. And I know I was quoted in the back room as saying something, and I'll explain what I meant by that. It's okay to cooperate, it really is. But it's also a two-way street. Too often the county has not cooperated with the city. Where was the cooperation when the gambling funds came in? Now, before you say it was a state law and all that, think of Allentown and Bethlehem who got together and cut their own deal. Nothing like that came from the county. We gave them the airport, we gave them the Civic Center, and if you're happy with that, go ahead, but those aren't perfect either. And this is not about power, as a certain media pointed out. It's not about power, it's about representation. Representation. And we deserve to have our delegates, the people we nominate from the city, to the best of their ability, represent city views and city problems. It's okay to get together. That's what dialogue's all about. And remember, we do this with the concurrence of council. And not once have council been brought up to speed on what's even going on. I'd like to know what's going on. The people out in the public ask me. We shouldn't have to read about it in the paper, and we shouldn't have to read about it on Facebook. We're elected officials. We're all in this together. This is I'm trying to think of that word in law, a bicameral group. And we need to work together. And to work together, we need to be kept in on it. We don't have to micromanage, but we should have a right to know what's going on, and we don't. We don't know why it was disbanded or anything. All little I picked up, I'm wondering if it was a legal meeting. They appoint a new chairman, the other one didn't resign formally, or so he said. We don't even know if it's a legal vote. There's just too many unanswered questions. Before we go forward, let's get together and meet. Jefferson Society. Before I raise taxes, I want to make sure that we're doing everything we can to collect all the taxes we can. And they took their case to the board, and they lost, and I think they lost in court at the common pleas level. A time for making deals is great. They pointed out the great things they do, but remember the 5-part test. They failed on one thing, and that was an important part of it. It's okay to say they offer something like Chautauqua, but is that really what a city provides? The purpose of a nonprofit is for groups that relieve the city or the county or the Commonwealth of a burden, something that's necessary. And I didn't want to talk about this, but Mary DiTullio, I can't ever be attacked. Mary DiTullio is a health professional. She came to me a while ago and asked me about this because we shared a common friend. And she appeared on my show as a disclaimer and explained to the public and...
I'm sorry, Madam President. Your show, that's Taxpayer Hotline. It's not the Kaz Kwiatkowski show.
Excuse me, Madam President, we can remind the councilwoman that this is my time and not hers. If you want to debate me afterwards. Can I finish? You interrupt people much too much. I expected that out of you. Mary DiTullio is a very good woman, and she came on the Taxpayer Hotline show, which I have been running, and I haven't had, nobody's asked to be on there to help. If you want, just ask. So when I was young, we talked about how we didn't understand lead, yet we drank water through lead, only to find out years later it causes problems with children. It's been pointed out it's good for kids, but adults are not so sure of. How do I know that? Because my wife is affected by it. My wife has talked to physicians, not quacks, not people that are coming down here and crying the blues, but talked to professionals, has read journals, talked to my son-in-law who's a professional doctor, all that. And there is a case to be made that women do suffer certain issues from fluoride. So because of that, my wife does not drink city water. And we could very easily have a voucher system in place to take care of those people that need pills, that if their kids want it. Remember, it's not just the fluoride you get in the water, but you're doing it through toothpaste, through other things. So that's an added thing. And finally, I'll be done. Mr. Mayor, I've tried for at least 2.5 months to get Andy Zimmerman to release a report on Civic Pulse. I don't know who I have to ask or how much more, but he promised council, each one of us, a copy of the Civic Pulse report. And yet here we are, we're going to be voting on the BIU contract and the Civic Pulse contract, and to date, I have had nothing. I've been told he was sick, yet I saw him on TV. I'll give him a mulligan on that. But 2.5 months and I still don't have a report. Either he doesn't have it or he doesn't want me to have it. So I will keep asking every meeting until I get it. But I can guarantee you this, my vote will be no until I get that report. Thank you.
Thank you, Cass. I have no report, but I wanted to congratulate our youth and our college students on a very successful year. You know, it's really nice to see that our youth getting awarded for their great accomplishment. You know, all we see is about the bad things that go on in the Erie community. It's really nice to see the good things that our youth do, and they'll continue to do. And also, congratulations to you, Mayor, on your award. You're a great guy. You're doing great things, and I'm glad to be here to help you out. And with that said, Teresa.
Madam President, I have a request. I would like to host Taxpayer Hotline at least once a month.
I don't have a problem with it.
Thank you.
You and Cass can work out the schedule, or do y'all need?
No, I want it to be it's not the Kaz Kwiatkowski show. We need to figure out what the purpose of that show is.
No. What I'm saying is what day.
Okay, I have to look at my calendar.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying.
Madam President, she can have her own half hour if she wants. She doesn't have to, doesn't have to debate me about it. She can have her own show. All she has to do is put a request in. If she wants an alternate viewpoint, it's there. It's never been my show, but nobody has ever come down to help out or anything. So rather than let the show die, I took it over on the request of Mr. Thompson. So I really find it repugnant that you think, I get a big kick out of this. I don't. It's a big effort to come down once a week and to make time to come down. I give up a lot. I don't go on vacation that day, and if I do, I try not to. You want a half hour? Take it. I don't care. Take an hour.
Cass and Liz, no disrespect, but it's a time and place for everything.
I agree with you,
Right
Madam
now, it's
President.
not the time nor the place. So we're going to keep moving right along. Teresa, do you have any report? Okay, Mayor.
I'll be quick. There's going to be no press conference this week or next week, but then we will start them up again in October. I sat in on the Erie Public Schools alignment team meeting earlier this week, and I can tell you I'm very impressed with what our public schools are doing under Brian Polito's leadership to provide a better education to Erie's future, the children that are in those schools. Done a lot of work lately on opportunity zones. Chris Groner and Brett Weiler have been very involved, the whole administration team. There's a huge opportunity there. I can tell you that Bruce Katz is going to be in town Monday, and he is a national figure in this area, and he's really promoting Erie as well. So we're Tim Wachter from the Knox firm has gotten involved. In fact, we had a meeting of about 25 people from all different walks of life here in Erie. How do we present opportunity zones in the best way possible to attract people to the area? And we've identified some really unique things about Erie that we think are very different than any of the other opportunity zones throughout the country. And so we've had really good feedback on that from people like Bruce Katz, so that's very encouraging. Also attended an announcement earlier today that the PA Downtown Center annual statewide conference is going to be in Erie next year. It'll be June 2nd through the 4th of next year down at the Bayfront Convention Center. And I happened to be talking to Casey Wells while down there, and he said next year is going to be the busiest year ever for conventions down there. He said they're actually having trouble scheduling, and there's so many that want to come in. So that area is really picking up, and hopefully we can see the Bayfront continue to grow with more, obviously, we'd like some market rate housing down there, restaurants, places people go and hang out. And, I think our Bayfront, both east and west, what the Scots are doing in the east and what Casey Wells and the Convention Center are doing on the west is very, very encouraging. Quality of life ticketing ordinance is ready for your consideration. If you're ready to take it, or if you need another study session, let us know that. But we would like to see that move forward because that's really going to help reduce blight much more quickly than we can do it without it. So, I'd like to see that move forward. And lastly, I just want to let you know that the National Development Council, we got a grant for them to come. They're going to train about 25 people, some from the city, some from the private sector, some from nonprofits. It's going to be at 900 State at Gannon's Small Business Center there tomorrow and Friday. We think we're going to learn about grants we can get to get things done and things we don't know about to move Erie forward. And another thing I'm proud of is that this came about through a joint effort of Erie and Mill Creek. We worked together, got a grant, and so both Erie and Mill Creek are involved in this. So that's all I've got.
Attorney Benson?
I have none.
Okay, and before that's what I was going to say. Since we didn't have any separations, I wanted to see if Rose had anything she wanted to say.
I've got nothing.
Our city council meeting is adjourned.
City Council adjourns at 9:27. Mrs. Arrington, Ms. Allen, Mr. Kotowski, Mr. Mursky, Mr. Schaaf, Mr. Winarski.